It's funny how rules only exist to be broken. And sometimes, they shatter in the quietest of ways, like the brush of a knee, or the wrong set of eyes lingering too long. I never expected to fall for him. Hell, I wasn't even supposed to notice him. He was my roommate's older brother, an unspoken no-go, an unbreakable boundary. But the heart doesn't care about boundaries, and mine had already leapt off the cliff before I could stop it. When I first moved into that cramped apartment in Boston, I thought my biggest problem would be splitting rent with a messy, coffee-addicted roommate named Tyler. Then one weekend, his older brother, Jason, walked in with a duffel bag slung over his shoulder and a smirk that made me forget how to breathe. He was just crashing on our couch for a couple of weeks while he figured some things out. That was the beginning. Jason had that kind of presence you couldn't ignore, steady, self-assured, a little reckless. He'd drop casual jokes that made me laugh when I didn't want to. Or he'd look at me like he knew exactly what I was hiding. The problem was, he wasn't mine to want. The nights were the worst. I'd hear him coming back late, his low voice carrying through the thin walls, the smell of cigarettes clinging faintly to his jacket. And sometimes, when Tyler wasn't home, we'd end up talking nothing monumental. Just music, movies, the kind of small things that shouldn't matter but somehow did. And every time, I'd catch myself watching his mouth when he smiled. It wasn't just attraction. It was something quieter, something dangerous. Because beneath his teasing, I saw the weight he carried, the sleepless nights, the guarded silences. And I wanted to be the one to break through. But I knew better. He was off limits. Don't get too attached, I told myself one night, staring at the ceiling while Jason's shadow moved across the living room under the crack of my door. But saying it out loud didn't stop the ache. One evening in late September, everything changed. Tyler had gone to visit his girlfriend, leaving the apartment strangely still. I was curled up on the couch, nursing a bad day with leftover Chinese food, when Jason came in, rainwater dripping from his hair. "You look miserable," he said, dropping beside me without asking. His shirt clung to him, and I tried not to notice. "Long day," I muttered, pushing noodles around my container. He studied me for a moment, then stole a bite with his chopsticks like it was the most natural thing in the world. "You take life too seriously. You know that." I rolled my eyes, but when his knee brushed mine, my breath caught. He didn't move away. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was thick, pulsing, filled with something unspoken. I dared a glance at him, and for a split second, I swore he was looking at me the way I'd been looking at him. But then he smirked, and the moment slipped through my fingers. "You're blushing," he teased. I wanted to deny it, to laugh it off. Instead, my voice came out softer than I meant. "Maybe it's because you're too close." That was the first time I saw his expression falter, like I'd peeled back a layer he wasn't ready for. He looked at me differently, then less playful, more raw. And before I could make sense of it, Tyler's keys rattled in the door, breaking the spell. Jason stood abruptly, muttering something about grabbing a shower. I sat frozen, heart pounding, noodles forgotten. From that night on, I couldn't pretend anymore. Every glance, every touch, every almost smile was all a battlefield. And the worst part, Jason wasn't pushing me away. If anything, he was pulling closer. There were stolen moments that shouldn't have meant anything but did. His hand brushing mine when we both reached for the remote. His jacket draped over my shoulders when I complained about the cold. The way his gaze lingered a second too long when I laughed. But the guilt sat heavy on my chest. Tyler had trusted me, welcomed me into his home, What would he say if he knew his brother was the one unraveling me? One late night, I found Jason smoking on the fire escape, city lights glittering against his profile. I joined him, shivering in the autumn chill. You ever feel like you're standing on the edge of something you shouldn't want? I asked, my voice almost swallowed by the hum of traffic below. Jason exhaled a stream of smoke, his jaw tightening. All the time. He didn't look at me when he said it, but I knew. God, I knew. And that was the problem. Because once you recognize that fire in someone else, the same fire burning in you's already too late. Jason didn't kiss me that night on the fire escape. But he didn't have to. His silence, the weight of his words, the way his hand trembled as he flicked ash into the night air was enough. We were standing on the edge of something dangerous, and neither of us knew how to step back. For weeks, the tension grew unbearable. Tyler remained blissfully unaware, cracking jokes and dragging me along to late-night pizza runs, while Jason and I exchanged glances that said everything we couldn't. Every moment alone with him felt like a storm waiting to break. The break came on a night colder than most. Tyler had gone home for the weekend, leaving the apartment to just me and Jason. I told myself I'd stay in my room, keep busy, avoid him at all costs. But then there was a knock on my door. Jason leaned against the frame, arms crossed, expression unreadable. You avoiding me? My throat tightened. Maybe. Smart move, he muttered, stepping inside anyway. The door clicked shut behind him. Because if you're not, I'm gonna do something really stupid. The world seemed to still. My heart hammered so loudly I was sure he could hear it. Like what? I whispered. And then, like the inevitable crash of a wave, he kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate. Messy. Years of unspoken words packed into a single collision. I clutched at his shirt like he might disappear, while his hands framed my face as if anchoring me to the earth. Every boundary I thought mattered melted away in the heat of his mouth against mine. When he finally pulled back, his forehead resting against mine, his breath shaky, he whispered, "This is wrong." I shook my head, voice breaking. Then why does it feel so right? We fell into each other like we'd been falling forever. That night, nothing else mattered, not Tyler. Not the rules. Not the fear. Just the quiet, unrelenting truth. I wanted him. And he wanted me. But secrets have a way of clawing their way to the surface. Tyler found out 2 weeks later. He walked into the kitchen earlier than expected, finding Jason's hand resting casually over mine on the counter. It wasn't overt, but it was enough. His face hardened, the easy humor vanishing in an instant. Seriously. Tyler's voice cut sharper than I'd ever heard. My brother. The guilt crashed over me. I opened my mouth, but no words came. Jason tried first. Ty, don't. Tyler's eyes flicked between us, wounded and furious. You couldn't pick literally anyone else. You had to go after him. I didn't go after him, Jason said quietly, a rare crack in his usual bravado. It just happened. Tyler laughed bitterly. Yeah, that makes it so much better. He turned to me, betrayal written across his face. You were supposed to be my friend. I wanted to explain, to tell him I hadn't planned this, that falling for Jason had been like getting caught in a riptidunwinted. Unstoppable. But all I managed was, I'm sorry. He shook his head, storming out before either of us could stop him. The slam of the door echoed through the apartment like a verdict. The days after were heavy. Tyler barely spoke to me, And when he did, it was short, clipped, cold. Jason tried to act like nothing had changed, but the guilt etched lines into his face. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. Maybe we should end this, I said, the words slicing me open as I said them. Jason froze. Is that what you want? Tears stung my eyes. No, but it's tearing everything apart. He stepped closer, his voice low but fierce. Listen to me. I've spent most of my life running from what I want, convincing myself it was safer that way. But I'm done running. You're what I want. I'll fight for this. For you. Even if it means Tyler hates me for a while. The certainty in his eyes left me breathless. For the first time, I realized this wasn't just a reckless fling. It was real. Took time. Tyler avoided us. Then argued with us. Then finally hesitantly began to listen. One night, after weeks of silence, he sat me down. I don't get it, he admitted, his voice weary. But I can see you're serious about him. And Jason, he's different around you. Softer. Happier. I don't want to stand in the way of that. The relief nearly knocked me to my knees. I didn't expect acceptance. Not fully. But I would take his reluctant peace over his hatred any day. That night, when I told Jason what Tyler had said, he just pulled me into his arms and whispered against my hair. I told you. Worth it. Months later, winter gave way to spring. The apartment was still messy. The rent still too high. But everything else felt lighter. Jason no longer lingered like a guest. He was part of my everyday. Coffee mugs lined the counter. His jacket hung beside mine. His laughter filled the rooms. Sometimes, when the city buzzed outside and the weight of the world pressed too close, I'd remember those first nights, the stolen glances, the fire escape confessions, the desperate kiss that changed everything. And I'd realize how close I came to running from the very thing that saved me. One evening, as we curled together on the couch, his arm draped over my shoulders, Jason murmured, "Still think this was a mistake?" I tilted my head, meeting his steady gaze. "If it is, it's the only one I'll never regret." He smiled then, the rare, unguarded kind that reached his eyes and kissed me like the world was finally right. And maybe, just maybe, it was. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.